Welcome to Your Untamed Life, the podcast bringing you stories of transformation, growth, fear, success, alignment, challenges, and more, with the intention to inspire you and light you up to find your own aligned path of transformation and let it unfold in front of you without letting fear hold you back. I'm Amanda Petra, your host and passionate human being. Without further ado, let's get started. Hi, Phoebe. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
Yeah, this is amazing. I'm so excited because, I feel like it's the perfect time to chat with you, actually, because I've been going through that no longer available for my bullshit kind of phase. And that is a you vibe. Living your best life, Phoebe. And yeah, you're a serious girl boss. I'm so excited that you're so happy to have you on and share your story. I know you've been through a lot, and yet you still exude the most positive energy that I've ever seen. So I can't wait to hear where that's coming from and how that is. Would love to start with digging into where you're at now, and we'll go back a little bit after. But so who is Phoebe and what does she also do?
Sure. I love this question because I'm always totally overwhelmed by how many things I have going on.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm trying to focus. The main things that I have going on at the moment is I'm a new mom. I have a little 8-month baby. She's the cutest. So I'm trying to arrange my life to really enjoy that season that I'm in, which most people would look at me and be like, no, she's not, because I'm also running 2 businesses at the same time, but they are my heart and soul, so I can't not. I have my CrossFit gym, CrossFit Long Haul, which is in Maddington, Western Australia, in case anyone's not nearer, which is all about good health and good times, helping teach people balance and really falling in love with the health and fitness journey, which is, such a huge part of my coaching background. And then I also have Best Life Phoebe, which is my coaching business for women. I'm a self-love and best life coach, and I get to help people really build their confidence and see all of the juicy joy in life and find their purpose and really just the best possible way, unpack all the things and relayer on all of the things that we truly want and who we truly are. And it's just delicious. I love it. I also have a book and a podcast, and the list is a bit never ending, but I love all of it.
Oh my gosh, you do so much. And I understand though now, having a business where the energy comes from, you're just so excited about what you're doing that it just provides energy instead of sucking it.
Literally, I feel
Yeah.
energized all the time, and then also totally exhausted at the end of the day. But like we just said, we just had this conversation that I'm a generator, and that's the feeling we're going for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. As a projector still, somehow my business gives me energy, even though, everything kind of meant to suck energy out of me. It's so interesting. Yeah, how just something lighting you up, it just changes the whole dynamic.
It does. I'm such a passion fiend. I love finding in people what their purpose is, because it makes your life so much easier. It's so much easier to be pumped about everything when you care about what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Is that what you do with Best Life Phoebe? Is that what you help people find?
Definitely finding your purpose is a really big piece of it. I think a lot of people come to me in that phase of they're starting to get that inkling of this is what I'm supposed to do, but I don't know what to do with this information. It can be quite overwhelming, when you realize that you want to start a business or you want to change careers, but so much of your life is set the old way. And so you're kind of in that realm of oh my gosh, I know I need to take this leap, but none of it makes any sense. And I need a lot of confidence around this, and I need to trust and have a bit of coaching and guidance around that. I love that. And heaps of other people come feeling very lost and they don't know what those things are. And I find they often really they come out quite quickly when we're working together. It's definitely one of my favorite things.
Oh, that's incredible. That's a really awesome part of the journey that you get to be a part of. And there's just so much shedding that happens when you just getting into a business or you're already in it. You still don't realize how much deconditioning you have to do from all the old ways. And all the way that people around you think, you have to decondition to be well, I don't have to think that way. And in fact, if I think that way, I'm never going to get anywhere.
Oh my gosh, so much. And it never ends. You think you've got it. The next level, you're whoa, all these new things.
Yeah, they're great moments, but man, they just hit you in the face sometimes. You're just oh, there's more there. God damn. They're so lucky then to have you there to help you guide them through that.
Absolutely, my pleasure. I love it.
Incredible. So How did you become a gym business owner? If we start there, I'd love to keep going farther back, but that seems like an awesome place to start.
Oh my gosh, so random. I don't really think I just fell not into the gym ownership part, but the very beginnings of that was like when I first decided to become a personal trainer. And it's so absolutely unexpected of a turn in my life. I've always been such a like book smart kind of kid and really like excelled in my studies and stuff. But I was fighting my parents on going to uni and being like, I'm not going to go. And they were like, just register and then you can have a gap year and then see how you feel after that. And I was like, sure, sure, sure. And then I took the gap year and I basically forgot about it. And then it was time to start uni and I just went. And I did not like it. I love studying. So I liked that part. But I was like, I'm for sure here just to like hang out at the TAV and meet some friends. Like I'm not doing any big moves in my life right now. And so I was just going, but I didn't really know what I was doing it for or where I was heading. And then I met someone who was a personal trainer and I just love the lifestyle that she was in. And even now, it's like, I don't think I could have pinpointed that at the time. I just loved what she had going on and like the energy that she seemed to have during the day because she was working like different hours and kind of controlling her own day and things like that. And I was like, that's so cool. And like exercise is fun, whatever. I hardly ever exercised in my life, so I don't know why I thought exercise was fun at that point in time. But I quit uni and signed up to become a PT, and it was really like it was fun. I quite enjoyed it, and I was like, "Whoa, like you can have fun at work. Like this is awesome." And then, so then I finished PT training and I then found out that there's basically no personal training jobs in the world and the only way to do it is to run your own business. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'm a business owner now.
Oh, surprise.
Yeah. And I was like not a horrible personal trainer, you know, the standard amount of learning a lot in my first years, but I was horrendous business owner the first couple of years. I was so bad at sales and things like that because I just had no idea and no one taught me. And, you know, you go to PT school and they teach you how to do a bench press. They don't teach you how to sell anything.
Mm.
So I would have like these wonderful experiences with clients. And then I would be like, see ya, call me if you want to hang out.
Wow, yeah.
So funny. And then, so yeah, eventually I figured those things out. I got a lot of advice. I kind of really put myself out there to build, to learn and grow and all that sort of thing, and fell in love with it. And then eventually fell out of love with big gym culture because not my vibe. It was all very weight lossy and people were really flaky because their goals were so flaky. You know, I don't think weight loss is a good motivator without
No,
going too far down that track. But I really fell in love with like making people love exercise and have fun. And I found CrossFit and everyone was having a good time. And then eventually left big gyms, started working CrossFit gyms, loved that. And then eventually, finally, was ready to open my own gym, which is what I did 6 years ago. That's how we got there. That was a
oh
long.
my gosh, 6 years ago. So is it a regular gym or a CrossFit gym or a mix of everything?
So it's a CrossFit gym. And for those that don't know, it's not like CrossFit gyms are not franchised. So they're not like a F45 or something like that. They are individually owned and run, but we affiliate with CrossFit based on the cultural values and the community and some of the like workout styles and programming and things like that. So for us, our culture is very much like we get to create it ourselves. And for me, it's all about good health and good times, like body confidence, really loving your life. You do you. And if anyone knows anything about CrossFit, it can come off really competitive and scary. And we are like the absolute opposite. And it's also like my favorite claim is that we're like the least competitive gym like in Perth. And I love that for our members. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I might have to come try your gym. I did CrossFit a couple times and I was like super turned off by that whole aspect of it. So
Yeah.
like the competitive aspect of it. And I'm like, but that sounds fabulous. And I love shaking up a routine. I only lift weights and stuff. Do you have like, is that part of, I think it is part of it, CrossFit in general too. They do.
Heaps of weight stuff. Yeah. We do kind of like a bit of everything, like a lot of the standard things that people know, running and rowing and push-ups and squats and things like that. But then, yeah, like Olympic weightlifting, all the dumbbells, barbells, kettlebells, just never ending things that you get to do. So it's always interesting and always fun. But Absolutely. I've been in so many different CrossFit gyms and every single one is so different, which is beautiful. Unfortunately, there is that side of it that we all have the same name and it can really like turn you off if you go to one and have a bad experience.
Yeah, I think so. I did get to like climb a rope though. That was pretty cool. But that was like a competitive rope climb thing situation. I was like motivates you because I got to the top, but I was like, okay, well, I never really want to do this again. I did it once.
That's super fun, but I find the most motivating part is that you're trying not to fall.
That's a good point. But yeah, you do unlock a lot of potential and capabilities in you that you didn't know were possible, which is pretty cool. So like the underlying
Absolutely.
aspect of that is pretty awesome.
Yeah. It's like when you run a gym or you're a personal trainer or something in that field, you attract people that have goals that sound like their weight loss and sound like their body confidence issues and things like that. And then when you put them in this environment where they get to see their potential and they get to see all of their power and they see all of these things they're really capable of, and then they love that. So then they start really showing up for themselves. You change so much more than like it becomes so much more than the weight loss. And you realize that the true goal is always like that confidence and that love for yourself. And oh, it's a beautiful, beautiful journey to watch. I love it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, that seems like a really good catalyst for it. Really just changes the outlook on it without having to do too much of the inner work that people are like, no, that seems hard.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds very scary. I feel
Yeah.
sometimes I worry we're like catfishing people at our gym because we'll be like, yeah, you want weight loss? Like, come on in. And then we're like, but how do you feel about yourself? Like, let's go there.
That's
You think you're going to
amazing.
lose weight, but actually end up like super strong and falling in love with yourself. And I'm like, sorry, not sorry. Of course you want that.
Yeah, of course you want that. And I think the weight loss is just always the service level to just, I want more confidence and I want to be comfortable in that. And just not that they don't want those things, but they just don't know that they want those things, or that is the underlying aspect of it. People that don't really self-reflect
Yeah.
will really just be hit in the face by that, being like, oh, okay, oh, I did want those things. And thank you.
I know. And we've been so conditioned, you know, like we all grow up in households where our parents told us we need to be careful about what we're eating and things like that. And then big gym culture has ruled for so long where all the advertising has been like, you need to sort out your body and things like that. So we're just now entering this era of caring about so much more than that. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is beautiful. There's so many like fit influencers or whatever now that are just normal.
Yeah.
Not just like this insane standard that no one can ever reach unless they're like an Olympic lifter at like, well, maybe not that because that's never even body confidence, but a lifter. But yeah, that's amazing that you own a gym. And like, how did you guys go during like COVID and stuff, having a gym?
Oh my God. I feel like the answer to this has got two parts. How we went truly is amazing. We did really, really, really good job of adjusting to that situation. We were really prepared and we were really fast and we moved really quickly and we really supported our clients and we got really wonderful feedback through that time. And there was so much that I was so proud of in the way that we moved, but absolutely the other side of that is that it totally crushed us and it was really, really hard.
Oh yeah.
But lots and lots of learning in that experience. And we're still growing and learning now. I feel like that was such a really interesting, I'm still uncovering it now. I feel like that was a wildly like traumatic experience for heaps of businesses. And I still am catching pieces of my mindset now that are like from this time that, you know, we're out of that now. We're safe and things are different. And I'm still like, oh, but what about this?
Oh yeah, like, oh, what if that happens kind of thing, on edge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, collectively I think we're still recovering from it and people are just trying to pretend that we're not. But it's so good that you like feel like you did really well on the front end. But yeah, I can imagine the weight of that would have been really brutal.
Yeah, it was a long year of being, I think, for us to do such a good job of being so proactive, it meant, like, particularly for myself, like me and my staff, we had to be really on the ball. Little things that don't seem like such big things. We were listening to every single announcement that like Mark McGowan was making and looking back now, like the anxiety that I was sitting with every single day, trying to be the first one to hear that announcement, to make sure I was the first one to like update my clients and things like that. I'm like, that was a lot. Like your body
Yeah,
was in a probably a solid state of like fight or flight for like a good year and a half there.
yeah, I was thinking about that the other day too. I was in Melbourne when all of this was down, so we were like super locked down. But the business that I worked for, you know, they even gave their food to like their staff and stuff, and they even opened their kitchen for people that didn't have money during this time. So like they handled it really well. But I just remember us all sitting there
Wow.
the same and being like, oh, the rules have changed now. Move 10 tables in, move 10 tables out. Like, you know, every 5 freaking minutes, everything changed. And I was like, I couldn't even be like, the business they ran was so big. And I was like, holy shit. So I can't imagine how you did all of that. Just thinking about that stress was wild. Yeah.
I know. It was absolute chaos. I think a lot of like beautiful community moments and things like that, but definitely, yeah, chaotic and a huge stretch on everyone's mindsets and energy
Yeah.
levels.
It was so unnecessary, I feel like, too. Like every 5 minutes being like, okay, so you can add an extra meter or like take an extra meter away. Like, why are we bothering? Like, this is just killing people's like stress. Like, oh, anyway. But amazing that you handled it really well. I was just curious overall what happened there. Before the gym, what were you up to? So yeah, you were in uni and what were you studying, I guess? But also, is there anything like in your past life before that that kind of like prepared you for what you're doing now? Does that make sense? Like lead into what you do now?
Yeah, I think you sort of sent me some sort of form of this question, and I was like, oh, we're just going to go right in there. But
Mm.
definitely for me, like in my childhood, my parents were separated and my mum struggled big time. She had lots of mental health challenges. She was like a single mum to 4 kids. Like her life was wild and she'd had a lot of challenges in her life. But I probably can count on like one hand how many good days I remember my mum having like my whole childhood. So for me, there's this little young, rude version of me that is like so
Mhm.
judgmental of my poor mum that was like doing her absolute best in such messy situations. I would always just be like, can you just try and like look at the positives that are happening today? Like, can you just see a little bit of the good stuff? And I would really at that time I made such big decisions, like even so young I was like, my life is not going to be like this. I'm always going to find the happiest parts of every day, and like I'm just going to take a more positive perspective. I started really believing those things, like, you know, if you think negative then you're going to get negative. And so, you know, from that, absolutely, there's been a very long journey of me doing that in a real like toxic positivity way and like dissociating and hiding from all my problems
Oh my
and
God.
things like that. But the crux of it absolutely like brought me here where I really have that perspective now a lot more healthily than it would have been back then. Of I just like I wake up every day assuming it's going to be good and always looking at the good stuff and making sure I'm spending at least as much time on the positives as I am getting caught up in the negatives. And all of these little things have just been like tools and habits that I've built since that time, just continuously being like, that's who I am and that's how I'm going to live my life, until it's so ingrained in me now that what other people see as like, I guess, big talents that I have are so organic to me because I've been doing them since I was like 6 years old, which is crazy.
Yeah, you've been building that character within you. I love it though. You're like manifesting at like whatever age you were, like 6 years old, being like, only the positive because I won't attract
Yeah.
negative with negative, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, so interesting how like a situation like that, like your mom or whatever, like people take that and run with it in so many different directions. Like I've heard people have that same kind of situation and, you know, just go down the dark route and just be like, well, I'll just also be negative. And guess it's that nurture versus nature kind of argument, but really cool that you took it in that direction and that you've found this really awesome way. The Best Life Phoebe thing, I just love that you found this awesome way to like really channel that part of you and really just hand it to people. You're like, so take some of my positivity, take some of like what I've learned. So
Yeah.
interesting.
It's so
Mm.
it's such a big move. Like it's such a big, bold, and brave move to just be like, these things that are kind of funky and cool about myself are enough for me to just like boldly share with the world. But
Mhm.
I think every single person has those parts of them, and I love bringing it out of them. So I also feel it's like such a responsibility of mine to like boldly present mine and be that person, because it proves to everyone else that you can do that as well.
Yeah, that's huge. And doing boldly is like crazy to me. Like it's definitely like a learned skill for most people. Did you have to like work through any challenges to get to that like really boldness, or was that always you?
Definitely. I think there were heaps of times where definitely just making sense of probably that move from like owning the gym to really launching this business and writing my book, which is actually what I started with in this business, which in itself seems wild. Like, who am I writing a book to? It's like a question I asked myself heaps. I was like, who are these people that want to read your book? And I was like, I don't care. I'm writing it anyway. But to get to that sort of point where I was able to acknowledge that the things that are within me and the skills that I have are skills and they are special. And even though, you know, there's no qualification, like I've got lots of coaching qualifications, but none of them taught me this. To be able to get there was really hard. There were heaps of times where even, I had family members be like, what qualifications do you get for that? And like, don't you need to do some training? Or like, I don't get it. Like, what do you do though?
Yeah.
All those kind of questions. And I've asked myself those questions 100 times. I put up my posts on Instagram and I like feel them in my soul. And then some days I'll be like, but what are you doing with that? So absolutely, it's an ongoing journey. But yeah, I know for sure deep down when I really look at it that I have like such a long, beautiful list of experience and beautiful list of skills. And I've worked with so many people over the years through the gym and through personal training and through coaching that I see how different everyone is. And they have such an incredible skill set of their own that I know they're hiding from sometimes. And so being able to see that in other people and then encourage that power in them, it made it so much more obvious to me what mine were, and that it was not acceptable to me to like hide from them or deem them not enough. And like I said, that responsibility piece for me, like if I'm going to tell other people to do that, and if I can see that in them and I can see that like it's not acceptable to me to watch them like hide away from these really important parts of themselves, I was like, it's not acceptable to hide away from yours either. So I really lean into that and be like, you have to be the boldest. If you're going to help other people be their bold, like you have to be the boldest.
That's beautiful. It's beautiful. You can see that within other people so much, and you were able to actually take it and put it like embody it as well, being like, well, fuck it, I have to do it because they're doing it. So good.
Literally, I feel like so much of my learning is I'm trying to teach someone something and then I'm like, oh shit, that's for me. That lesson that I'm teaching right now, it's for me. I need to take that again and like relearn that lesson. I feel like it's happening with my clients all the time, that they're in the exact space that they're in and I'm in the exact space that I'm in, and we've come together at the exact time because we both have things to learn from each other. And it's a beautiful two-way thing that you don't, like, I've never really expected from that style of coaching. I thought it was going to be like, I've always had that thing where you've been like, the coach has to know everything and be the person who has all the experience and has all the skills. And now the more I've been doing it, the more I'm like, no, like we're both growing humans and I have some things to teach and that person has some things to teach. And right now, yes, I'm teaching them, but oh my God, they teach me like every day.
Yeah. Oh, I got like goosebumps from that because I was like, oh, I was just experiencing that today. Like my friend's going through something and I'm coaching them through it in a way. And it was like, oh my gosh, we're just teaching each other and we're in the same situation and in each other's lives to get each other through it. And yeah, it really makes a difference when you look at it that way. You can't just be like, look at yourself like I'm the guru. Then you just kind of segregate yourself from the whole situation and you don't actually provide what they need. You just cut yourself off from it, I feel like, energetically.
Yeah, you miss out on so much. That's so beautiful. I think, yeah, the more, like you said, you realize all those little bits and pieces. Everything's a mirror. Yeah, it's amazing.
It is. Yeah. I always say that about business, how it's such a big mirror. Well, it holds up like hundreds of mirrors at a time.
Yeah,
everything is.
Never just politely one at a time, like all of them brutally at one time.
Yeah, always the worst angles too. Just like what?
Straight up the double chin, like, hey, look at yourself.
That's exactly it. Yeah, that's right in the feels. Love that. It's so cool what you get to experience. And I just love how you've like the way that you see it. It's crazy. You're helping so many people and you're just kind of being there for them. And oh, it's just turned you into such a beautiful human. Like
Oh, thank
shedding
you.
away all of those challenges. I feel like that's what happens like with the progress. But were there any like specific challenges that you can dig into here that you might have went through to uncover that sense of loudness and boldness? We like I'm very like quiet,
Yeah.
anxious. I'm like,
Oh my
was
gosh,
there
I
anything
think I'm
specific that we could
still,
do?
it really is like every layer that I uncover, I think I've been like, oh my gosh, like that's such a big thing. And then years later, I'll be like, no, this is it. This is the big thing. And then years later, I'm like, wait, this is it. So, but there's been heaps of, I guess, really big leaps. Like, you know, obviously going through that childhood stuff was big. And that actually later in my teenage years, I moved in with my dad and my stepmom, which was such a calm and peaceful home. And it was wild to go through that process of how chaotic things were. And I realized, I don't know if I realized then, there were heaps of parts that I realized then, but you know, I was so used to being in this chaos and having to be the adult of the situation and organizing things. And like I said, that judgy little girl part of myself was like, I'm the boss of this situation and I'm almost like parenting all my siblings and like I've got all my shit together. And that's what I'm so proud of. And that's what validates me. And that's what everyone says, wow, you're so mature and things like that. And then I move into my dad and my stepmom's home and it's calm and I don't need to be this like teacher's pet anymore, but I was like killing myself trying to get straight A's and my parents were like good for you. And I would be like, does anyone notice how organized and like powerful and smart I am? And like, so then I had this kind of energy that I was taking in there. And like you said, with the, you know, a lot of people have been in those same kind of like traumatic childhood situations and they go in different paths. And I realized now that one of the biggest paths people take, yes, they take the negative and stuck route. Another route that so many of us women take is the superpowered control freak, like overly masculine perfectionist, like got to sort everything out. And that was definitely where it ended up for me. It was me being like, I got to control everything. I absolutely cannot go back to where I was. So I need to work really hard. Like I'm hustling, I'm like overdoing it. I'm really dissociating from all of my problems and just like steaming ahead. So there was lots of that I had to try to unpack. I found once I started in business that really questioned those elements for me, because what attracted me about the business, like I said, was I saw that girl that was a personal trainer and I thought her life was so cool. So as I entered that realm, I was like, I want to, like, all of this is about having happiness in my life. So I started really leaning into like the balance a little bit more, like, okay, you get to decide what hours you're going to work. So don't be hustling all the time. And I had to kind of undo a little bit of that. And oh my gosh, there's so many of these times. I had a really shitty relationship, as we all do. And that one really brought out the dissociation part of me that became quite clear when I, like, towards the end of that relationship, I was so, I guess, like such a like empty shell of my energy, right? Like all these things, all this energy, all these things I want to do, all this passion. And I was actually thinking about it today with the question, something that this partner used to say to me was that I was boring and I had no creativity, which, can you imagine that about me? I'm like, dude, you're like the least, to me, I'm like, you're like the least boring and so fucking creative, like endlessly ideas and problem solving and like helping and all these things. But because I had just over the time of this relationship, to avoid the conflict and to avoid the problems and to try and keep looking on the bright side, I was just shutting every little piece of myself down to make it work, you know, to keep pushing forward. And it was like, as so many of us have, as soon as you step out of that relationship, it was like I felt myself again. And I was like, whoa, like there's all these parts of me, because it was so black and white. It was literally within a couple of weeks for me. I exited that relationship and I felt like my whole self again. And I just realized so quickly, I was like, whoa, like that was such a shut off that had happened there. Like, what is that skill, if that's what we're going to call it, that you have in yourself to be able to turn that off? Like, kept you safe at the time, but so unhealthy. So
Yeah,
that was,
coping mechanism or something. Yeah.
yeah. So
Hiding your whole identity. That's wild.
it is wild. And it was like, and all the way through, I was like, I'm calm, I'm peaceful, I have a relaxed relationship, we never fight, things like this that were convincing me that it was the right thing to do. So that was where I really learned about my dissociation patterns. And since then, obviously, that was the worst of it I think I've ever had in my life, you know, since childhood. But I still catch that one all the time. I'm still having, like, I've had a little dark night of the soul recently, and it's been that I'm capturing these little like dissociation patterns in my life all the time that I'm fighting through, we're working through. They get better every single time. But like I said, it's like you think you've got it, and then bam, a couple of years later, something creeps up on you, and you're like, all right, to get to the next level, we got to get through this again. And I get really excited about it now. That's my favorite work. Like I love to find a problem, because that, to me, it means there's something better on the other side of it. So I'm like, let's fucking go. Let's get into this problem. Let's clean it up. Let's notice ourselves and see what we need to do, because I always know there's magic on the other side.
It is magic. It does definitely get addicting though, when you're just like, oh, okay, what's this next one that I can fix?
What else is wrong with me?
How deep can we go? Where are these demons hiding? So bad, but it's true. But that's so interesting. Yeah, you had so many kind of like identities there that you had to shed. The controlled identity that was like not really you, and then the dissociation. How does the dissociation show up now in your life? Those little bits.
It's kind of a similar vibe to what I said at the start, where it's like there's so many genuine parts of me that see like every single day is so beautiful, and like I'm so grateful for all these things, and I'm so happy about all these things. And I have to be quite careful, because I have that dissociation pattern, to not slip into convincing myself that I'm seeing the bright side versus actually hiding from something. So sometimes I'll be like, okay, I'm going to achieve this goal. This is what I'm working for. But, you know, the reason I have that goal is because something's uncomfy. So I set that goal, and then I start working towards it. And then I go, oh, everything's looking good. I don't need to look at this problem anymore. And I'll kind of just slip into this pattern of being like, look at it all doing very well. And then a couple of months later, I'll be like, what? You didn't actually do any of those things you said you were going to do.
Oh gosh.
So it doesn't happen about many things. It happens about my really big, scary things. And, you know, nowadays it's not like, my life is so good, like, or the base level of my life is so good. It happens about these things that are me up leveling. It's me when I reach into this next realm of where I'm trying to go, particularly in my businesses, when I'm trying to push to this new ceiling of something that I want, and I know that I'm not there. So facing all the reasons why I'm not there is quite uncomfortable. So sometimes I really dive into that and I feel really powerful and go for it. And then other times, you know, I'm trying to still learn about when and why it ends up that way. But I'll just switch it off and focus on the good stuff. And then be like, oopsie, that's why nothing's moving.
That's interesting. That's definitely like a tricky one to catch, I feel like, because I do that when I'm going into the next level. Yeah, I'll be like, say a week or whatever of just full forward vibes, and then the next week I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna lock myself in my room because and I'll just be like moody about it. I'm just like, oh, okay, that was too much, too scary, too soon.
Yeah.
But that seems more noticeable than being like, oh, next week you're just like super positive but not dealing with shit.
Yeah, or I'm like coming up with like excuses why, you know, yeah, if you look at them, really they're excuses, but I'll be like, oh, but it's just like this situation's happening right now and this situation's happening, but everything's happening, it just needs time or something like that. And I'll be like, it doesn't need time, it needs you to like get off your bum and look at it. That's what it is.
Yeah, I definitely find that struggle too. But then I'm like, well, do I push or do I just wait and like let it, you know, simmer, and then I'll be ready to do it? I think there's a balance there you got to find.
Absolutely. There's so much like kindness involved as well. Like the reason, there's always reasons, like really genuine reasons. The reason I'm dissociating from something, the reason you need to get in bed that next week. Like your body, like it's not fake, and it's not just you bullshitting, and it's not you just making excuses or giving up. Like there's genuine reasons why your body is not ready, your mind is not ready, like you're avoiding that. And it's always, the worst thing we can do, I think, is just beat ourselves up about it and expect ourselves to do better the next week. It's like the real magic is in noticing that and going, like you said, like, what is it that I'm afraid of? Am I ready? Like, is it worth it to me? And asking those questions, and actually, eventually healing those parts of ourselves that are afraid or don't believe we can do it, or whatever it is that's in there that makes it all so scary. And that's how you actually move forward, rather than just being like, I suck and I dissociate and I can't do it, like that's not
and
it.
giving up.
Yeah. That's the real giving up.
Yeah. Just if you full on give up, then you're really just giving in to all of your fears and everything. Like no one wants that. And also just like finding the next level in your business there's so many aspects to it, I feel like, because it is like, are you ready? But also, is it really what you want? And then like trying to find the right thing that you do really want, and that is going to be the long-term thing, or that is worth putting energy into and effort into. It's so hard. You just gotta like, I don't know, there's so much shuffling around that goes on. Like no wonder you're kind of an emotional roller coaster through it all too.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think there's like, we forget that there's so many parts of ourselves, and all of them, like they are genuine parts of yourself. There's this massive part of me that wants a really slow, balanced life with my baby, and that's real. And then there's this other part of myself that like wants to go so hard in my businesses, because that feels so good too. And not from just this hustly space of like proving myself or needing to be so successful. Like I just love it. And both of those parts of me are really genuine. And when I take the slow time, it's not me giving up on these goals. And when I go into the hustle, it's not me deciding it's more important than the time with my baby. They're just two parts of myself that are really important and really special, and you're always going to ebb and flow between them. And you need to be able to like, so many of us, so much of the stress that's in our lives is beating ourselves up about the fact that, in that situation, I'm working when I'm not with my baby, or I'm with my baby and I should be working. When if we can just see that those are two parts of ourselves that are super important. Sometimes we need a rest, sometimes we want to push, sometimes we need more time to figure it out. Like if you can create peace around that, like save so much energy and have a much better time.
Just live in the peace, just enjoy what you're doing, no matter what it is. And whatever pace you can go at in whichever like side of you're on, I think that's really important. Just embrace it.
And honors all those other parts of you. Like of course we can all steam ahead and hustle all day, but like what are you leaving behind?
I definitely just went through that. I never thought I was like a hustler or anything, but I got really like into my business and started hustling, and then being on that side of things where I was like, oh, I actually have to catch myself, because I am doing the things like I find is actually like pretty toxic hustling. I'm like, I've always been like the chill person that didn't do this. So and then you uncover that and you're like, oh, I have that in me too. That's cool. And you got to ebb and flow between the two.
I know. And it's so hard to like, you're always having that balance between, oh, like hustling's bad, I got to check myself. And then I know that there's also that other form of hustle where you're just so fucking passionate. You would stay up all night long. And like in my experience, that hustle, you wake up the next day and pop out of bed. Like you're still good if it's that kind of hustle. And it's like really actually checking in with yourself and being like, how do I feel about this? And not on paper, how is it looking? Like it's so hard. There's so many times like that we're having to really, try to find ourselves and what we really want and what we really feel versus probably what the internet told us yesterday.
The internet told us. That's so true. And like how it looks to like your partner, or how it looks to other people, and just not letting that really get to you, and be like, I'm going to stay up all night and do this. I definitely get lost in that when I'm designing. I'm like, okay, I'll do this for 12 hours. That's fine. And not move. Like, okay, that looks unhealthy, but I had a good time.
But for you, that's actually like, that's your beautiful flow. Like that's you in purpose state, that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's true. And it doesn't feel like a waste of time, but you could call it that. But it's what you label it to and what you let it be. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, so how, how did you, or like, how do you help others break through those mindset issues? Sorry, I was going to ask you about your mindset issues. I'm like, but we've covered those. How do you help others? Like,
Definitely I use a little bit of my framework is like know yourself, love yourself, and be yourself, which is a little bit like I really want people to build that awareness first of like who they actually are and what genuinely feels good to them, like really starting to lean into like hearing your own intuition and trusting those thoughts and like feelings that you have that normally like that doesn't make sense, put it away, or that will never work, and just giving them space to start to hear those things about themselves. And in knowing yourself, we also, that's where I get lost a little bit in like human design and astrology and all those bits and pieces that I personally just found as really good tools to, like they can be so validating when you realize like, oh, I do think like that, or I do feel like that, but I've been pushing it away because of all of our conditioning and what I've been told or whatever. It's been shut down in us over time. So when you read that in your human design chart or in your astrology, or you get that reading from someone, it gives you that extra power to like trust that piece of you. So definitely knowing yourself is all about like the awareness piece and seeing these things that, maybe you're not as proud of, that aren't working in your life, that are draining your energy, all of those things, because knowledge is certainly power. And then loving yourself is loving yourself enough to do something about those things, to honor the intuition, like to honor those pulls that you have, to also love yourself enough to say, God, I keep doing this thing that sucks for me, like, or there's this trigger that yes, it hurts me, but it's not serving me, like to face those things. And I really believe that you need to face those things with love and not with what we normally face it with, which is like, I'm a piece of shit, which does not help anyone. And being yourself is the next step, where it's like, okay, I recognize these things about myself. I love myself to do something about it. I am starting to really recognize who I want to be and who I truly am. And then actually stepping into that, like, showing up as that version of yourself in the physical, tangible actions. And somewhere in that process as well, we do a lot of like subconscious reprogramming and stuff. I really love meditation and breath work and emotional freedom technique, tapping, all those little bits and pieces that we use to help. It's one thing to come across the challenges that we have, to come across the triggers that we have, to come across the traumas that we have, but to actually break through them, it's so much deeper than just knowing about it and saying, I'm not going to do that anymore. We kind of really need the tools are such a big piece of actually releasing what it is that held us there, and then being able to step into that new version of ourselves, which is all very, very exciting.
So exciting. I'm glad you spoke about intuition and everything and the astrology. Love it. But yeah, you can't just like know about it and just do it. And I feel like we always just try and do that, forcing ourselves to just change. Whereas it's a process. And that sounds really, really in depth. You actually take them through all of it. And wow, sounds really amazing.
It is a lot, but yeah, exactly. I think so many of us are stuck in that, I mean, coming from like a gym history, it's very like, oh, tomorrow I'm going to eat healthy. And you're like, okay, if it was that easy, why didn't you do that the last 10 times? Like, we're still beating ourselves up about giving up on not eating healthy, but there's so much beneath that. Like, why haven't we been eating healthy? Why haven't we been treating ourselves well? Like, why are we hiding away from our goals? Why do we even care about this goal? Like, what does it mean to us? And when we start to actually go there, that's when we get the beautiful change.
Yeah, and then you don't beat yourself up doing it too. But I've noticed that too recently, just trying to like, quit things like coffee or sugar or anything. You always do go back to it eventually, but it just slowly and progressively kind of becomes less and less of the bad thing that we label bad or whatever, less and less of the addiction or the coping mechanism. And you gotta like allow it to still be there. It's not going to just instantly be gone tomorrow. You allow it to be there. Even in like 3 months, it'll come back.
Yeah.
And it'll kind of be there. It'll show you too, like this was a part of you, and then you kind of like, it's like, say with the chocolate or whatever, sometimes you have that chocolate again and you're like, somehow that doesn't hit as deeply as it used to, because
Yeah.
it's not tied to my emotional trauma or my emotional eating. It's just like, it's chocolate now.
Yeah, you're like, it's
So,
not who I am anymore. I don't eat the
yeah.
chocolate. That's
Yeah.
such a good example that probably, like, you know, we've all had that example in our lives, and the change took heaps of times. It took heaps of goes, took heaps of failing, took heaps of like it coming back and it getting, you know, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And if we could take the trust that, you know, if it's that fucking hard to do with coffee, like it's gonna take time, and it's gonna take all of those efforts and goes for us to change, you know, the things that make us angry, or the things that make us insecure, or the things that make us panic, like all those things. If we could take that trust and remember those processes where we have made change, but it wasn't such a linear straight line, and beating ourselves up did absolutely nothing on the way. Like it's, yeah, that's a beautiful example. I love that.
Yeah, and you put it so well. You wrapped it up so well there. Really, really important, definitely. I think I've lost the train, but yeah.
We've gone on so many
I was,
tangents.
yeah, I would just love that. I think I'm just integrating that last one there, but beautiful. Well, let's dig into maybe the future then. I would love to know, like, what's your vision for your business in the future? You know, are you talking empire, or like, what is the vision for your life, really?
I am such a big, bold dreamer, and I'm not like, I don't even achieve one goal and I'm like dreaming about the next one. And my husband's always like, just whoa, just chill out.
They need people like that in their lives, though, like us. I do that
Yeah.
too.
It's so much fun to me. Like, I find it really enjoyable. I think a lot of people find it very like anxiety driving. I find it just a lot of excitement and freedom. But for me, always I'm aiming for like peace and ease. And like, I love the freedom to move with my energy. So that's always number one on my list when I make any decisions in my business. Like, I'm down for a little bit of hustle. I do heaps of periods of like lots of work, and most of the time they come from being so energized and excited about stuff. But sometimes they do come from shit needs to get done. But I always make sure that that is a short term like goal if that's happening. So always my big visions are like ease and freedom and being chill. But otherwise I'm like, yeah, let's get like $1 million a year. I want to move to, we always joke about like, absolutely adore the house that I'm in, but I'm always like, when we move to the mansion. So I like really big goals, but definitely I'm working on in my gym, kind of modernizing a little bit. Like we've been open for 6 years, and when we opened, we were very like garagey warehouse CrossFit, which was the vibe. And then we went through COVID and it kind of stunted us. And I feel like we popped out the other side and we're kind of like feeling a bit old school. So I'm working on how we're going to move in that direction, which is quite exciting and fun. And always working on my leadership for my team in the gym. And then just, yeah, I feel like I'm just going to keep learning so much more about myself as I go through this new coaching journey in Best Life Phoebe. And every bit that I uncover, it feels very much like this business is the essence of my life and who I am. And everything that I uncover about me, I feel like I'll go through a journey and I'll get a client, and that client needs that journey I just went on. And it feels like I'm in this constant flow of, as I up level, I help up level the next person. And it's this beautiful journey that I just know is going to keep going exponentially and very excitingly. And I just like froth every bit of it.
Sounds so good. It sounds like you're like your essence outlet kind of thing, Best Life Phoebe.
Yeah, it's
I can
definitely
definitely
just
relate
me.
to that. You take the step forward and then the next person behind you is like, I need that step forward, please.
Yeah. And it makes so much sense because in our beautiful world of social media now, it's like you're sharing that journey that you're on, and you kind of thought you, like we were saying before, you kind of thought you'd be like more experienced and smarter and have like this huge level of experience above someone that you were going to teach. But really it's like, no, they just saw you go through that thing and they're like, hey, help, I'm right here. Like, I'm right here, like on the next level with you. Help me get there.
Yeah, I feel like we go into everything with such big expectations. Like it's gonna feel so much different and so much bigger. And like even the things like we want, like, freaking mansion or $1 million, none of those things are gonna feel different.
No.
I'm like, really hard to bring yourself back down. But honestly, I don't think anything feels different. You're like, you're just still going to be like, yeah, I did that thing. And that's how you talk about it. But, to other people, you're like, holy shit, you did
Massive.
that thing. Yeah.
Definitely for me, like I think all the ease and the flow and everything for me is still that healing piece of me that's like I'm leaning into letting all of that control freak, letting all that perfectionism, all of those things go. Like the last few years, I've leaned so much into trust and surrender. And they've been so fruitful for me in, what feels like crazy ways because I've come from such a control freaky background. And so definitely like they feel so good, and I'm trying to just trust that more, that I can trust that the world is working in my favor and the right people are going to come. And I've seen enough of that now, on my little manifestation journey. But so much evidence of things coming at the right times, recovering from things at the right times, like everything happening for a reason. So just leaning into that, trusting that, dreaming big, but just knowing like the times will come at the right time.
Yeah, I can definitely lean into that evidence too. Like the more you trust, the like more you get out of your own way, and the more the good stuff comes towards you, to you. And then
Yeah.
it just feels effortless, and you're like, oh shit, I'm doing nothing, but it's amazing.
That's such an ebb and flow too, of like working your butt off and then other times being like, let me just be in the delicious state of my life right now. And then that energy is like so powerful, where you just appreciate what you have for suddenly generating all these new things for you. Right when you weren't paying attention to that. I love it so much. What's happening for you? That's what I want to know.
Oh, what's happening for me? A lot of what you just described, actually. I just started leaning into the same, being like, just trust, it's fine. I kind of had to go through a period, though, like just a small one. I was reflecting recently of just, I had to have this massive kind of force telling me to go forward. It was like, I wanted to go do something really big, and I needed money, or I needed also the strength to go do it. And I had to like push through that. And it was horrible and uncomfortable, but I pushed through it and I did it successfully with a lot of mantras written around my house too, like supporting me through that. They're like on every wall and every mirror. But yeah, I feel like I had to do that, and it was horrible and scary, and I did it. And then after that, everything just kind of slowly started to flow. And then I just leaned into trust, and it just kind of all happened. Like everything just got thrown at me in this beautiful way. And I'm like, everything feels really good right now. Yeah, that's what.
Yay. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And then you enjoy that, because then you're going to start that process again anytime in the next 5 years.
I know. I'm not looking forward to that first kind of push through. It feels like you have to push through a wall.
Yeah.
Like, or a little mini wall. I'm gonna call it a mini wall, so a big wall doesn't come at me. And then it just all flows. Like you just I feel like you're unleashing the big ball pit at you or something.
It's
Oh, goodness.
literally that. I feel like I've really started to notice that now. And it's something that I really warn my clients, because my poor clients, I probably shouldn't say this, I don't want to scare anyone. It's like when you finally admit and you go in and say like, this is what I want, and it's out here, or it's above or beyond or sideways from where you are, like I want different. The universe is like, sweet, okay, here's the ball pit, here's all the shit that you need to figure out and clean up and move through for you to get there. Like, totally heard you, that's where we're going, but here's all the things you have to do, here's the person you have to become, here's the things you have to get past for you to get there. And they are blessings and gifts, and they're so uncomfortable. They come in so hot like that, and they can come in so hot like because it's that line between we kind of sit back and we like in our excuses or hiding from what we want, and then it's like we take that big step of being like, this is what I want and this is where I want to go. And it's fast, like it feels like problems coming at you, but it's problems for you to fix so you can become that person. And I feel like, yeah, that happens to my poor clients all the time. They sign up for coaching, and then before we even start, or like their first session, we think we're doing one thing and we get on the call and they're like, my life is on fire. And it's because we've just had this big conversation where they've been like, wow, like, okay, I see what I really want. I see where I really want to go. And then everything starts coming out of the woodwork. Like, all right, here's what we got to figure out. And I love it, but I do feel a bit sorry for them.
I feel sorry bad for them too. Yeah. I feel like I just learned this, that it just like in such a vivid way that it stuck in my mind too. Just the same there, where the shit started coming and I was like, what the fuck is going on? And it was like, I got an analogy, I think it's from Kim, about clearing the land to build a new house or whatever, that new mansion that you want. But there's like big stumps in the ground that you got to get out, and some of them are like rooted really deep, and you got to like freaking strangle with that one, like struggle with that one big one. And I feel like I had it like, yeah, you just have like complicated situations or clients or whatever, and they're your like tree stump, and you just get cleared out of the way and deal with it and really like face it head on, because you can't just leave it.
Yes, it's so empowering to. It's so annoying that all of us learn that after it happening like 10 times. It would be really empowering information if we knew that earlier. But
Yeah.
as soon as you realize that your problems are like the things that come at you when you feel like you're in that shit storm, it's to get you to the other side. Like, that's so empowering, especially when you're deep in the mess. Like, you might not feel it, but just to know, like, surely this is sending me somewhere is so helpful in those moments.
Yeah, it's really helpful, even if it's just something to cling on through the shit show. But like, it always turns out fine on the other end. Like, there's always something better on the other end, and there's always something, like a reason for it. Like, hindsight will always tell you that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So important. I'm glad we got that out there so people know.
Yeah, please
Listen to that last few minutes of this conversation. Yeah, so good. All right, I really want to keep talking, but I might just ask you the last question that I always ask everyone. We'll wrap up a little bit. It might send us on a tangent though. I'll be grateful if it does. So, what is one piece of advice or inspiration that you would like to leave listeners with? If our last one wasn't good enough, because it fucking was, but to help them through the journey or start them on their transformation or growth journey. Inspiration.
Oh my gosh. I think probably one of the most powerful things for me has really been that intuition piece. It's one of my favorite things to really build that safety in my clients, to trust that. So if you don't feel like you have a really strong connection with your intuition, and even the word sounds crazy to you and you just don't really get it, like, start diving into that, because I just don't feel like there's anything more powerful. We really don't realize how much power and how many answers we already have. Like, if you're one of those people that feels a bit lost and confused, like, you have the answers, but we just need to really trust them and hear them. And there's so much that we push aside. And yeah, I would love if every single person leaned into their intuition and trusted it and knew what it was and knew how to hear it. The world would be, can't even imagine, my favorite.
I can't even imagine. Yeah. The absolute fucking best.
Yes.
Holy, that is a really good answer. I've only like recently kind of unlocked like my deep intuition, and it's just like, it is just mind blowing. But then you just start realizing too, like, the moments in your life that were so amazing and impactful too, you did actually listen to your intuition for some freaking reason. I feel like I'm like, oh yeah, I did that because of this, and I don't know. It just unveils itself after. Fuck, it changes everything.
Yeah. And some of the hardest times in your life where you felt like you were beating your head against a brick wall over and over and over, and then you finally pop out the other side of that, and then I don't know, you're almost like, I freaking, or like, like, why did I keep doing that? Like, I knew I should have known then. Or I was really like, so much of the time when we're really struggling and we feel in that fighty spots, because we're just not listening to ourselves.
Yeah, we're really ignoring something deeper than us, definitely. Oh, there was something I was going to say. Oh, there was something recently I did too for intuition. It was just that really simple exercise of, asking yourself really simple yes or no questions and feeling into that answer that you give. And that kind of gives you that little hint of, I feel like, of that intuition. You're like, yes, that's a yes. And then you kind of feel what that feels like. And if it's a no, you feel into what no feels like. Yeah. That was just like this little like life-changing moment that I had. I was like, oh, you can kind of like narrow it down to that moment and sort of get a feel for it and dip your toe into it.
Yeah, that's such a good exercise. And also it'll be so clear to you really quickly if you are not sure how to hear it, because you won't be able to get your yeses or nos. You'll be like trying to over explain it or trying to think about it too much. Yeah. Big one.
That's true. Yeah, that avoidance for sure. You definitely don't want to do it then if you're trying to be like, yeah, I'll do it, or like convince yourself, or like,
Yeah, or you're all in your brain like, well, sometimes yes, but sometimes no, or
oh
it
no.
should be this, but not this. And you're like, no, trying to feel it. That's, yeah, the magic of our bodies.
I wish the whole world was run like that. You're right. Because like then we could all run our business the way that we want to, that freedom way, that easeful way. But instead we all force it and like, oh, it's so hard nowadays. I feel like you just have to navigate around the people that are really forcing timelines and forcing like stress on each other. And you're like, I just want an easeful business. I'm only going to work with you if you want an easeful business because this is too much.
And
Yeah, if everyone was tuned into that, it would be so beautiful. I love it. Okay, so for our listeners, if they'd like to work with you and you know your incredible empire that you're building, and P.S. I'm coming over to your mansion because we now live in the same state,
yes.
or I'll be in the mansion next door. I feel like I laughed during that, but I was like laughing not in the way that most people laugh uncomfortably when you're like, I want to build an empire, and they laugh really uncomfortably because they don't believe you. Whereas like I know like you believed in yourself and I was like, I believe you 100 fucking percent. But I was like, yeah, we're gonna do that. You know that black sheep vibe where you're like, I'm gonna start a business and everyone black sheeps you and you're like, oh, that's not a normal thing to say.
Yeah. Like
I'm gonna have a mansion. Oh, that's not a normal thing to say. Like,
no, it's not a normal thing to say. We
yeah,
need new circles, more friends
we need
that with
yeah.
mansions.
Yeah, we need like our own court of mansions or
Yeah.
something. Like-minded, easeful businesses in this court.
Yes.
Only. But yeah, okay. I had a point there. So where can people find you on the internet?
Definitely find me on Instagram at Best Life Phoebe. Just write at Best Life PH and don't stress yourself trying to spell my name. I'm sure it will come up. You can also find me on Facebook, www.phoebewalpole.com. I am currently, my main thing that I'm focusing on is my one-to-one coaching, but I do have a Best Life bundle, which is mini courses where if you're not ready to dive into something so big, you can go into finding your purpose, setting your best life boundaries, or I have one called Self-Love Freedom, which is really beautiful. They're just a few hours and they're such a like incredible little boost to your life. So if you need something like that, come hang with me. Otherwise, yeah, find me on Instagram, DM me, hang out, let me know.
Love it. I love those little mini courses that you have. Like you've covered everything that we need.
Yes.
I might go do actually.
I love them. They're so good. I need to do a better job of marketing them because every time I look at them, I'm like, oh, everybody needs this.
Yeah, they do. I've sometimes like find people's other like your stuff, for example, and I'll be like, I want to market that. Like, I'll tell everyone about it. Like, it's so needed. And I'm like, but market your own stuff first, Amanda.
I know, or we know because like, you know, it's the same as I'll have one client and then I'll see another one of my like, you've got to talk to this client. Like everyone needs everyone's everything at different times.
Yeah, everyone needs each other and everyone needs each other's stuff. And yeah, we're creating and being for a reason. So, and like we didn't just force ourselves to be in the public eye and go through all these emotions to, you know, be strong enough to be out in the public eye for no reason. Like we're here for a reason to help and inspire and uplift kind of thing.
Yes,
yeah,
for very beautiful reasons.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for being here. This has been so nice. I definitely feel like I've gotten all your generator energy as my projector vibes. It was so good.
Yes. I always feel so amped.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. I love it. I love being featured on a podcast is such a blessing for me, but also your questions and where we went was just so much fun.
Oh, good. I'm so glad you liked it. Yeah, like I said, it's my favorite thing to do, dig into people's lives. And your journey is so powerful, so powerful. People are going to learn a lot for sure. It was really fun having you here. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
See you later. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so freaking grateful to have shared this space with you today. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, I would absolutely love it if you join me on Instagram. I'd love to connect in the DMs and chat all things transformation. Hear some of your stories, your journey. It would be so, so cool. It would also mean the world to me if you did just click the little follow bell on Spotify or head over to Apple Podcasts and leave a quick review. With your help, we can help more people feel the incredible depths of transformation through stories and teachings shared here. And, please remember, you can do anything you hear here too. It is not for just other people to do. You can do it too. Thank you so much, gorgeous soul. See you on the next episode.